This is my hearing aid specialist from Cobb Hearing Aid Services, Keith Whitcomb. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you very much for doing this for us. We've worked together a little bit, and it's been a pleasure. It's been a lot of fun. And one of the things we want to talk about today is the reasons to come to an actual specialist to really find out what you need. There's a lot of people that will just get a hearing aid over the internet or something, but it's hard to know what you need unless you get an actual in-depth evaluation.
Yeah, and that's so important. I was trying to figure out with Keith today, what's the difference? I know I've had like hearing aid tests versus like what he did here, and he said no, it wasn't a test, it was a screening. So some of you might remember, maybe even when you were in grade school or even just recently, that they put something on your ears, and when you hear the beep, you raise your hand or you click something, right? So that is just a screening. That is something that I had as a child and was called back to have again. So I was screened twice, and then they said, oh, she's fine. And they didn't realize at the time I had a condition called otosclerosis. And otosclerosis, and I'll let Keith, the expert, explain that a little bit more. We're not going to go into depth in anything. We're just going to kind of brush the surface of different types of hearing loss. But my specific type of hearing loss was otosclerosis. It is more common in women. And I definitely was having some issues from grade school. Went to college. By the time I graduated my 4-year college, I know I was already always sitting in the front of the class, always trying to make sure I was right in front of the teacher, right in front of people. I was reading lips by then, didn't realize that. Went to chiropractic school and set my alarm to get up for class. And next thing I realized, I almost missed class because I was sleeping on my good ear and never heard the alarm ring. So basically what happened was, long story short, I go to an ENT and he said, you have this condition, and Keith will explain that in a moment, but his solution at the time, and I think it was the old type of thinking, and you might even look it up, they said fluoride treatments. Now, I wasn't really thrilled about fluoride treatment. Yes, it would thin out the bones in my ears, but it would also affect the bones throughout my body, so I knew that was not an issue. I ended up having 2 surgeries. One, a stapedectomy and a stapedotomy. I know that's big words. Don't worry about that. So I had those surgeries, and everything was going fantastic. Years later, just a few years ago, I had a high fever. That fever caused my prosthetics that they put in my ear to shift. And once again, I had hearing loss, pretty significant, and it was affecting me as a yoga teacher, me as someone who loves music and emceeing events, and just every part of my life was affected. And that's when I started on the journey of how do I get a real, true hearing aid test and what's out there as far as hearing aids. Because thinking back when I was a kid, everyone had these giant hearing aids. Like, I don't know if I really want that. But, there's a stigma to hearing loss. I wasn't sure how much I wanted to have on the outside, but I knew for sure I wanted to have good conversations with people, meaningful relationships. And when you have hearing loss of any amount, you tend to shy away from public situations. And that's just not my personality. So that wasn't an option for me. So I wanted Keith to explain a little bit about the different types of hearing loss, and also, like we were talking about earlier, the screening versus like a true test.
So there's basically 3 different types of hearing loss: a sensory neural hearing loss, there is a conductive hearing loss, and then there's a mixed hearing loss. We have both. The conductive portion that Grace is talking about is caused from things like otosclerosis, is a hardening of and calcium deposits on the bones in the ear. Now, we've all heard about the 3 little bones in the ear from anatomy class in high school, and that's really what's happening for part of what she has a mixed hearing loss. It has partly a sensory neural loss and partly conductive hearing loss due to that otosclerosis. And a hearing screening typically doesn't take care of finding out whether you have those kinds of problems or not. A hearing screening just finds out if you can hear a couple tones. Actual hearing evaluation, we actually put a conductor behind the ear, and it goes to actually conducts right through your skull. And it goes right straight to the nerve center and bypasses the eardrum and the bones in the ear. As a matter of fact, I have a chart here. It kind of shows how sound goes from an acoustical wavelength in the air, hits the eardrum, and vibrates the eardrum and the three little bones, and it goes from acoustical energy to mechanical energy. Then that pushes on the stapes here, which is part of what you had a prosthetic stapes put in, and some people get that done, and it helps them tremendously. But then it pushes on the fluid that's inside this cochlea. Now that fluid is vibrating, it's hydraulic energy. Then it moves the little hairs, and those hairs pick up the movement and send electrical energy to the brain. When we do the beep test to see what pitches that you hear at what level, that tells us that these guys just need certain volume at certain pitch. Sometimes these are broken where they send the wrong signals to the brain, even when we get you the right volume at the right pitch. That's why we also do words. We have you repeat some words, different kinds of words, high pitches, low.
And that's in the testing, right? Not the screening.
That's the actual evaluation. This
Right.
is different than a screening. Yes. So when we do an evaluation, an actual in-depth test, we make sure that we test all these different things to find out what it is that you need specifically.
Which was amazing. I'm sorry to interrupt, but it was amazing how many words I was interpreting. Like our brain will make the word become whatever we think it is, whatever we're hearing. Or, even if we don't hear it properly, our brain's like, oh, it sounds like, and then we create our own word. Mm-hmm. And then you think everyone around you is crazy because they're
that's
not
what we
talking
have
properly.
to find out. We get you to that good level. Some people only have 50% word recognition, is what we call it. And word recognition, even in quiet, that's all they can do. So there's no way that anybody can help them in a noisy restaurant. That's even worse yet. So my job is to find out exactly what pitches we need to bring up. And sometimes it's different for each ear. And sometimes I'll bring up sounds too loud in a poor ear that doesn't understand words. And we actually can mess things up more if we do it wrong.
So actually, that is a really important point, because I have met a lot of people that have said, yeah, I have hearing aids, but I don't wear them, right? I've had people say, yeah, you paid too much for your hearing aids. I got mine here or there. And I said, well, you don't have them in now, do you? No. And they may have saved some money, but between the evaluation and the type of hearing aid, which we're going to go into now, for your lifestyle, the hearing aid has to fit your lifestyle. If you aren't evaluated properly, and correct me if I'm wrong, if you're not evaluated properly and you don't have the right hearing aid for your lifestyle, you will not wear them. It doesn't matter what they cost. What does it matter if you get hearing aids for $500, $800, or $1,000 and you don't wear them? You're still in the same situation.